Hi, Chair Kirby Young.
Yeah. Hi, Councillor Boyle. Can you hear me? It's Tina.
I can. Can you hear me all right, Tina?
Oh, yes, I can. Loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Kirby Young will be back in a moment.
Okay, great. Uh, why is this?
Good evening. Is this Victoria Raskin on the line?
Hi. Yeah, it is.
Oh, hi, Victoria. Welcome. And the
Hi.
hearing will begin shortly. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I was trying to join by video through WebEx, and it's just still connecting, and it's not working.
Okay.
So it's okay to do it by the phone?
Okay, that's fine, and we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Please
Okay.
remember to mute yourself when you're not speaking.
Oh, okay.
Great. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. This is a business license hearing to determine whether a 2022 business license should be issued to Victoria Raskin, the applicant, for a short-term rental accommodation at 3516 East Pender Street, otherwise known as The Premises. Before we begin, I do have some opening remarks. This hearing is being convened by electronic means as authorized under Part 14 of the Procedure Bylaw, the City of Vancouver electronic meetings, and as such, panel members may participate in person or by electronic means. If a panel member attending by electronic means does lose connection during the voting process, staff are available to get you back online quickly while the voting process is suspended. The staff contact information has been circulated to you, panel members. Video of panel members speaking and the vote results will be projected on the live stream for the public when available. And for those panel members participating by electronic means, in accordance with Section 14.13 of the Procedure Bylaw, please ensure that your video is turned on and let the clerks know if you leave the meeting for the purposes of confirming quorum. Thank you. I'd also like to begin by acknowledging that we are on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. We thank them for having cared for this land since time immemorial and look forward to working with them in partnership as we continue to build this great city together. May we have the roll call, please?
We have Councillor Kirby Young in the chair. And we have Councillor Boyle on WebEx.
Present.
And Councillor Swanson on WebEx.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff. So we will commence our proceedings this evening, beginning with opening remarks from Robert LeBlanc, acting as counsel for the City of Vancouver.
Good evening to members of the panel. My name is Robert Long. Am I on mute? Is that better? Okay, thank you. Just introducing myself, Robert LeBlanc, counsel with the City of Vancouver, city prosecutor and litigation counsel. I have conduct of the hearing this evening. I know that we have the applicant, Ms. Raskin, on the line. I'm just going to pause briefly and let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Victoria Raskin.
Thank you, Ms. Raskin. The hearing before the panel this evening is an appeal by the applicant, Ms. Raskin, of the Deputy Chief License Inspector's decision to not support the application and the issuance of a business license for the provision of short-term rental accommodation at the address of 3516 East Pender Street in the City of Vancouver. The decision and the basis, therefore, is set out in the letter of December 21st, 2021, by the Deputy Chief License Inspector that was sent to the applicant. That is contained in the evidence materials at tab 14. The page number in the upper right-hand corner is page 46, and I'm just going to read from a few of those paragraphs so that the panel has a sense in terms of the basis for the decision by the Deputy Chief License Inspector. I'm reading from the second paragraph. On November 12, 2021, an inspection of the premises was conducted by a property use inspector, Vincent Amengolegin. Sorry, I may have mispronounced that. The property owner was noted as present during the inspection. This inspection revealed no clothing or personal items and little food in the secondary suite. Your father, Michael, stated that you eat all of your meals and spend your time upstairs at 3518 East Pender Street. On December 14, 2021, the city received an expired BC driver's license and services card with a mailing address of 3518 East Pender Street. For supporting documentation, you provided a GST credit notice and a screenshot of your CRA notice assessment, both displaying and mailing address of 3518 East Pender Street. The city has determined that in consideration of the totality of information, including the inspection and the documentation submitted and information available to the city, it does not support that 3516 East Pender Street is your principal residence. As per the license bylaw, section 25.1 sub 3, no person shall carry on business as a short-term rental accommodation operator unless the short-term rental accommodation being provided is the principal residence of that unit. I think that what you can gather from that is that the letter very clearly stipulates that the basis of the decision to not support the application was an inability of the Deputy Chief's License Inspector to determine that the applicant satisfied the principal residence requirement for the premises at 3516 East Pender Street. I think it may be helpful to actually provide the panel with a definition of principal residence unit as it's defined in the license bylaw. The principal residence unit means the usual dwelling unit where an individual lives, makes their home, and conducts their daily affairs, including, without limitation, paying bills and receiving mail, and is generally the dwelling unit with the residential address used on documentation related to billing, identification, taxation, and insurance purposes, including without limitation income tax returns, medical services plan documentation, driver's licenses, personal identification, vehicle registration, and utility bill. And for the purposes of this bylaw, a person may only have one principal residence. The city's witness today is the Deputy Chief License Inspector, who will take you through the materials in the evidence book and explain the basis for his decision. What the panel can expect to hear is an indication that the decision required a weighing of the claim of principal residency by the applicant against a number of other factors, but principally the failure to provide any required documentation corroborating her claim that the unit at 3516 East Pender Street was in fact her principal residence. Also, what I expect you to hear is the results of the property use inspector's visit to the property, indicating essentially an empty apartment without any personal effects whatsoever, indicating a permanent occupancy by anyone. The Deputy Chief License Inspector's submission then is that the conclusion that he drew from that evidence did not support the principal residency, and that it was a reasonable conclusion for him to draw in the circumstances. The submission being made tonight is that in the absence of any further information, that decision to not issue the license should be upheld by this panel. Of course, the applicant has the opportunity this evening to convince this panel otherwise. Before embarking on the evidence, there are a few legal and procedural matters to note. I'll just note that the hearing this evening is brought pursuant to Section 4, Sub 4 of the license bylaw, with an indication that notwithstanding any other section of the bylaw, the Chief License Inspector may refer any application to the license or for the license to council, who may grant or refuse the application. And this panel's power to review a business license or applications is set out in Section 275 of the Vancouver Charter. The granting or refusing of a license to an applicant, therefore, and the revocation or suspension of a license which has been granted shall be deemed to be in the discretion of council. And council may grant, refuse, revoke, or suspend the license without stating any reasons, therefore, save in respect of a licensee who by reasonable efforts cannot be found. The council shall not revoke a license without giving the holder thereof an opportunity to be heard. And that, of course, is the purpose of the hearing this evening, is that opportunity to be heard with respect to asking this panel to issue the license, that being made by the applicant. This is an administrative proceeding, so just as I sum up, I will note that the rules of natural justice do apply to the hearing. The applicant is entitled to hear the case against them. The applicant may respond to that case. The applicant may ask questions of the witnesses, and the applicant may make submissions on their own behalf. And if this panel sees fit to grant the application or to abide by the recommendation of the Deputy Chief License Inspector not to issue the panel, you must give some reasons for doing so. Those are the opening comments. The city has one witness this evening for the hearing. That's Deputy Chief License Inspector Koji Miyagi. And that's Mr. Miyagi just attending to the lectern. Mr. Miyagi, I'll just let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, to members of the panel. My name is Koji Miyagi. I'm the Assistant Director of Community Standards and also the Deputy Chief License Inspector for the City of Vancouver.
Thank you, Mr. Miyagi. How long have you held that position for?
I am going into 4 years now.
I understand one of your roles presently, and for the last little while, certainly has been a role overseeing short-term rental administration.
Yes, through the chair, that is correct. As my role as Assistant Director of Community Standards, I oversee a number of work area units, if you will, and one of the areas is called proactive enforcement. That area oversees the short-term rental investigations and enforcement activities. I also oversee the property use inspection area, and that area also contributes towards the investigation of short-term rental violations.
And that would include an assessment of applications that may be flagged for further investigation?
That is true. We have a number of ongoing case files, and the process also looks at flagging information that may require further investigation from our staff.
And this particular matter regarding the property at 3516 East Pender Street, this is a situation where there was a reapplication for a business license for short-term rental accommodations at that property, that being made by Victoria Raskin, and that was flagged for further investigation to ensure that the applicant was in compliance with the requirements stipulated under the license bylaw.
Yes, through the chair, as you will see in the package, this particular address has had fairly long history of short-term rentals activity dating back to this particular address, 2018. We have seen some activities there, and our staff flagged an activity or series of activities, bookings, if you will, without a proper license being issued, and so that was flagged for investigation.
Okay. Just before we get there, I'd read a few paragraphs from the letter dated December 21st, 2021, that being at tab 14, page 46 of the materials. That's you who made the determination and signed that letter with respect to not supporting the application of Ms. Raskin, correct?
Yes, through the chair, that is correct. In the absence of the chief license inspector, it is my role as the deputy chief license inspector to render the decisions or the outcomes of case files, if you will. In this particular case, the deputy or the chief license inspector was not present, and so therefore my role, I rendered the decision of non-support in this particular case, given the information that we had collected.
Okay. And much of that information that you collected is set out in a case summary and timeline that has been included at tab 2 of the materials, starting at page 3. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Can you just explain what that case summary and timeline is, Mr. Mianchi?
Yes, through the chair, if you will tolerate, it highlights, as I indicated, that this particular location had, an individual had a license for this location dating back to August 2018. And it might be interesting to note that this particular property or land site, if you will, has multiple addresses, meaning multiple suites. And we look at all these locations, see how they're related and whatnot. And through that process, it's triggered some interest for us, which I'll explain later. We were contacted by the applicant, actually on her own accord, back in 2020 to, we use the term GOB here, and that's gone out of business. So she elected to pull her license in 2020. So it remained unlicensed as of the time that she had requested, which was back in February 11, 2020. In July 16, 2021, we had recognized some booking activities going on that location without a valid license number. And that's what triggered a series of inquiries and investigations that really kick off in August 25th, 2021.
Just so that I have this clear, this particular property is assigned 3 addresses, one address being the main address at 3518 East Pender Street, correct?
That is correct.
A secondary address, which is within the main dwelling house at 3516 East Pender Street, which is a secondary suite unit?
That's correct.
There's also a laneway house that's been constructed at the property, and that is the 3rd address at 3512 East Pender Street.
Yes, that is our assertion.
Okay. What you seem to be indicating is that in and around the beginning of 2020, there was a pre-existing short-term rental license issued to the applicant authorizing short-term accommodation at 3516 East Pender Street. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. But the applicant had called in February 11th, 2020 to voluntarily cancel that business license.
That is correct.
Okay, so carry forward from there. You indicated that the further investigation later that year, mid to the end of the summer, 2021, indicated that there was some ongoing listing activity without having the required business license?
Yes, we frequently look at various sites, not necessarily targeting this particular one, but we do look at a number of them. And this one happened to flag an invalid license, I believe. And, but looking at the site, there was active bookings going on. Looking at the reviews, there were active bookings that appeared, I believe, back in April of that year. So during the period that there was no license issued, there was booking activity going on to a point where we actually issued some violation tickets.
Okay. I'm just looking at the note indicating that the clerk made an observation with respect to listing at 3516 on August 25th, 2021. And I'm turning to tab 6 of the materials, beginning at page 12. What it appears has been included in the evidence package is a listing for an entire guest suite hosted by Victoria. It was being offered as of the date that the screen capture was made, August 25th, 2021. So this would be a copy of the listing that was observed by the clerk, Nathaniel C.
That is correct, and we used this as part of the evidence for issuing the violation ticket to the property owners for an invalid, unlicensed short-term rental activity.
Okay, so this was an active listing. You could book the premises for short-term rental accommodation, notwithstanding the fact that no business license had been issued.
That is correct.
And I see on the third page, which is page 14, that at the bottom of the About the Space section, there is a license number, 19-162914. If I'm not mistaken, the 19 at the beginning of that would be the initial issuance of the business license?
That is correct. So that would have been at least for the year that individual had received that license. But because the prefix of the year is stated earlier, this is only valid in 2019. And for it to be used in 2021 shows us that is not a valid license.
It was an expired license.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Then, having had that information reported by the short-term rental clerk with respect to the unauthorized listing and provision of short-term rental accommodation at the premises, what action was taken?
Excuse me. So, given the information that we received, and it seemed pretty solid, our staff proceeded to issue what it's called a BVN, a bylaw violation notice, which is a ticket, and it was issued to both property owners, Michael and Alina, I believe, Raskin. They were the registered property owners, and they received the ticket for being a property owner who permitted an unlicensed short-term rental activity to occur. So there were two $1,000 tickets issued.
Okay. And now I'm looking at tab number 4, page number 9 in the upper right-hand corner. This is of the evidence package. Copy of the 2 tickets that were sent to the property owners, Alina Raskin and Michael Raskin.
That is correct.
And at tab 5, page 10 in the upper right-hand corner, it looks like there was an order that was also issued to the 2 property owners with respect to the requirement to acquire a short-term rental business license or to cease all short-term rental business operations at the premises.
Yes, that is correct. Through the chair, essentially, this goes with the ticket, where it's essentially a cease and desist that remove all listings within 10 days. Don't do any short-term rental activities until you receive a valid short-term rental license.
Okay. After those tickets were issued and the order was sent, what happened?
We were contacted by by Victoria, and she had requested that if they can dispute the ticket. Now, at that time, I believe the listings were deactivated, and an explanation was provided as to why there was no current license issued. In the dispute, and it is, forget the tab on there, it is noted that she did plead guilty to the offense, and then, but with a plea of us forgiving or foregoing the tickets. So the city, in good faith, canceled the tickets with the, once again, the good faith of them not continuing with short-term rental activity until a valid license is issued.
Okay. Maybe I'll just do a sidebar here at this point. The tickets were canceled. Do you have any information with respect to any ongoing short-term rentals that happened at the property at the address 351 East Pender Street during the months of September or October of that year?
Yes, through the chair, now at that time, it was September, so we had ran these host compliance numbers that show activity on that particular site. But as you will see at the end of your package, we ran the host compliance booking numbers, and it shows that obviously there was activity starting from April 6th of 2026. That's on page 54. And it continues on to August. September is when the listing was removed. But we do see documented stays in September. We also see a documented stay in October.
Okay, you're at tab 17 of the materials, page 53 and 54.
That is correct.
Okay, so this is a host compliance document that's provided by Airbnb?
No, this is host compliance is a third party, not Airbnb. We use host compliance information to assist us in doing information gathering. And so they actually scrape the actual site where it's being listed. So in this particular case, it was able to obtain information that showed that there were actual bookings going on, even though we had, in good faith, gave a cease and desist order and also canceled the ticket.
Okay. I'm just looking in the bottom right-hand corner of the page 53. The records that the city was provided with indicated that there were 3 documented stays in September 21 and 1 documented stay in October 2021. It also appears that it was relisted again on January 2nd, and then there was a cancellation of a booking January 5th, 2022.
That is correct. And I currently, our staff had indicated that it's not active as of when this was provided to us, I think printed in March. I also looked at the listing today, and it is deactivated. So that particular one isn't operating anymore. But yeah, back then it appeared to still been active.
Okay. So notwithstanding the fact that the city canceled the tickets, there was at least 1 stay, being the stay in October, that occurred in contravention of the bylaws.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Let's pick it up from where the decision was made to cancel the tickets. What action was taken then? Maybe I'll just pointedly ask it. At the bottom of page 3, it looks like the city, September 8th, 2021, received 2 online applications, one being for a short-term rental license for Victoria Raskin at 3516 East Pender Street, and one for Michael Raskin at 3518 East Pender Street. So Mr. Raskin being the owner of the property. So having received those applications, what was done?
Yes, through the chair. So once the application was received, we had informed them that it was not issued yet, that they had to go through a number of reviews that we wanted to confirm some information. So both Michael, the father's application for 3518 and Victoria's application 3516 it's important to know that the licenses were not issued, and that information was provided to them to say that we are needing to do an inspection, which we'll talk about shortly, and also to provide documentation that also supports the application. Those things still needed to be collected, and so therefore they were advised that they do not have a valid license, even though that they had applied. So it's not automatically issued. And just to note that 3518, there is a current investigation going on that particular address as well. So we do see the relationship there, but this particular one is relating to 3516.
Okay, well, we'll come back to the 3518
Sure.
property a little bit later on. With respect to the assessment of the application for 3516 by Victoria Raskin, what was arranged for?
Yes, so our clerk, she had asked to, she had indicated, and as you'll see, September 10th, we had indicated that there will need to be an inspection that is completed. I do know that later on, Ms. Raskin had asked for the inspection to be waived, but we still wanted to go see that site. And so therefore, the final the inspection did occur on November 12th. There were some delays of getting that out there. But before the licenses were issued, we wanted to go on site. And you'll see in November 12th that our PUI inspector did actually go on site.
Okay, and what's the purpose of the inspection? What's the property use inspector looking for?
Yes, the property use inspection is used to determine if the principal residency is as stated in the application. And so we look at different indicators of a residency and use. And we also look at safety aspects as well in terms of the short-term rental bylaw regulations.
Okay, and what did the property use inspector find the inspection on November 12th, 2021?
Yes, in summary, through the chair, the inspection found that this particular unit, 3516, looked very, we use the term sanitized, and that term indicates that the property appears very unlived in, very clean, which is nice, but there's no reasonable personal belongings that indicate residency in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the closets. There are no clothings, just general appearance of what a lived-in suite will look like, where you and I perhaps may live in. Those are the things that we look for. And then if there are any bylaw violations as well in terms of safety or those kind of things as well. And the inspection revealed that, yes, it was very sanitized. The father who was on site, Michael, indicated that Ms. Raskin eats all her meals at the main house. I know that later on, Ms. Raskin does state that she felt the inspection was to show what a short-term rental property would look like, and on the safety aspect, she is correct on that safety piece as part of what we look for, but we didn't give an indication to say that this is an Airbnb inspection. It's a short-term rental bylaw inspection where we're looking at primary residency.
You're looking for signs of occupancy.
Exactly.
Personal effects,
Yes.
food, linens, all those types of things.
All those kind of things. And you'll see in the pictures in the refrigerator, in the cupboards, in the closets, bathrooms, there are no indications of that.
What the inspector noted was no personal effects in the suite.
That's correct. In the food, freezer, cupboards, nor any personal effects in the suite. He also noted there was a long-term tenant in another suite, and that Um, Whereas he was able to note that whereas this particular suite had no lived-in appearance.
Okay. So you mentioned that Michael stated something to the property use inspector, and that's captured in the property use inspector's notes. They're also contained at tab 10, page 26 of the materials. Michael, being the father and the applicant of the license for the main unit of the property, stated his daughter eats all her meals and spends time in the main unit with him. No indication from the property use inspector of gaining access to any other part of the property, though.
No, not that we are aware of, and the photos just indicate unit 3516. But he did capture the information from the father that his daughter essentially spends most of her time at the main house.
Okay. What else? What other information was sought with respect to the application?
We also looked at the document compliance, if you will. And so the application will need to be supported by documentation of various nature, and we provided a list of that. And the information that we got back, which were the driver's license, the Government of Canada GST credit information, the CRA notice of assessment, those pieces all indicated 3518 East Pender, which is her father's residence. None of it included 3516. And to note further too, we did notice that the driver, initially we received in December, when we got the documents, that her driver's license was expired. And so we had asked for a newer one. And the newer one, which is the valid driver's license, also showed 3518 East Pender. Now, Ms. Raskin provided an explanation for that. However, we feel that to date, no documents support her living there, compounded by the fact that the inspection also showed a very unlived-in suite.
Okay. I'm just looking at tab 12 of the materials, page 38. There's a registered mail document that's sent from the enforcement coordinator for short-term rentals, Ms. Holmes. It's sent to Ms. Raskin, and it is a request for further documentation. That's the request letter that was sent that yielded some of the documents that you've already described. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and I'm looking at the last page of that, page 40 in the booklet. That gives some details in terms of the documentation that that the short-term rentals team would be looking for in order to satisfy the determination of principal residency.
That is correct.
And the package then back to page 5 of the materials in the case summary, you received a reply to that letter December 14th, 2021.
That is correct.
Okay, and I see listed here the materials that were furnished, and you talked about a driver's license that was issued with respect to 3518, GST credit notice for 3518 East Pender, a CRA notice of assessment for 3518 East Pender, an Airbnb support email that showed some booking details but didn't have an address on it.
That is correct. And through the chair, the actual photocopies of those pieces of information can be found on page 57, 58, 59, and 60 of your package. And they all indicate 3518.
Okay, 57 is the initial driver's license that was provided. It had already been expired as of December 2nd, 2020, showing the 3518 Pender Street East. Some of the other materials. The second license that you talked about, looks like it was reissued on January 2nd, 2021, it too for 3518 East Pender Street.
That's correct.
So in terms of documentation, the city didn't receive anything indicating principal residency of Ms. Raskin at the secondary suite, 3516.
That is correct. We received nothing.
3516.
We received nothing that indicated that she lives at 3516 East Pender.
So that information taken together with the inspection and the fact that it revealed effectively a suite with no personal effects, and taken together then with the information provided by her father to the property use inspector that she spends time upstairs and eats her meals. Were you able to come to any determination as to whether or not 3516, the secondary suite, was being occupied as Victoria Raskin's principal residence?
Yes, the information that was that we had just talked about clearly identified to me as the Deputy Chief License Inspector reviewing this case file that factually we didn't have valid information to support the application and hence the non-support. The other investigative information, I guess, that I take into consideration, the investigation team also takes into consideration, and we mentioned this in the letter of non-support that you see at the end of your package, is the totality of information that was read earlier. And we see that this particular property or location has multiple addresses, has multiple short-term rental licenses, is operated by the family. And so we look at all that and also use that to weigh some of our information as well. But the factual information obviously is the primary indicator that helped us make this decision.
All right. The decision then was made and set out in the mail document that I've referred to at tab 14 of the materials, at page 46. The paragraph that I didn't read is the
Fourth paragraph.
the fourth, one, two, three, the fifth paragraph, starting with in view of the seriousness of the above mentioned concerns and issues, I will not support issuance of your 2022 license application associated to business license, and you provide the number, until you can provide proof that you comply with the short-term rental bylaw regulations and the requirements. By provide proof, that would be some indication that it's being occupied as her principal residence.
That is correct.
And have you received anything since that December 21st, 2021 letter or leading up to tonight's hearing that Ms. Raskin has asked you to consider in coming to or revisiting your conclusion?
No, we have not received any additional information that supports proof that this individual lives at that location.
Maybe I'll just ask, you alluded to further investigation with respect to the other addresses at the property. Can you provide the panel some background in terms of the application that was made by Michael Raskin in September 2021 with respect to a short-term rental at 3518 East Pender Street? What's happening there?
Yes, through the chair, this is an application that we also received at the same time, which indicates that there was no valid license issued prior to. But looking at the booking history of 3518, which you can find in page 51, I believe. It dates back to July 2015. And so there's a lot of short-term rental history at this particular location, if you will, that dates back to 2015, prior to the short-term rental bylaw even being created. And it's booked fairly heavily, and it continues to be booked all the way through to 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. And then in 2019, it stopped, and then it resurfaces again March 2021, which coincides with Ms. Raskin's reactivity, if you will. But there's a lot of documented stays, and then the license activity is picked up again, so on and so forth. So we look at the activity on this location, who is involved, which parties are involved. We didn't see any property managers being involved in this particular case, and so it's not uncommon for us to see family ventures, if you will. And in this particular one, it looked like a family venture that is operated in a commercial manner, where vacant short-term secondary suites are used, or vacant dwelling units are used. Perhaps people's names are used as well, and so there is an investigative pattern that we look for, and this particular one fell into that pattern.
Okay. And we've talked about there being 3 separate addresses. You've identified 3 separate listings, and if I'm not mistaken, the one that you'd just taken the panel to was at page 55. Is that right?
Yes. So the page 50.
Okay, let's start with page 50. That's the one you were talking about.
Yes.
I'm just at the second page where you drew our attention to, and the contact name for that listing was Michael and Alina.
Correct.
And you know that this is one of those 3 addresses because you've reviewed the photographs and they match those that are associated with Victoria Raskin's Airbnb listing.
Yes. If I can draw your attention to page 53, there is that one larger photo of the back of the property, it looks like, and there's a door, a white door on the ground level. That is, to our understanding, 3516. We believe the 3518 is the one that's above, where you have to access by the stairs. We are still under investigation on 3518, so the photos of that particular suites are not included, but in all 3 of the listings that we have, that particular back of the house picture appears as a common denominator. The picture on page 55, that we thought that may be another property, but that may be a reproduction under Michael and Alicia's listing for 3516 as well. So the case file is not complete on 3518, but I guess the point that I'd like to make is that we do have enough information to continue that investigation. We do have enough information to non-support 3516 in our opinion.
Okay. The information that you have with respect to this particular property seems to indicate to you that all of the units are being used as short-term rentals in some capacity.
That is correct.
That certainly 3516 is, you're not convinced that it's the principal residence of the applicant, Victoria Raskin.
That is correct. From the information that we've gathered, it was reasonable for us to reach that conclusion.
Okay. And at various times, rentals have happened at all 3 listings without the required business license.
That is correct.
And you're not in a position to support her application.
At this time, no. No new compelling information has come forward to convince myself or the chief license inspector to say that she lives at that residence. nothing new's been provided, and so therefore there was nothing that we can use to change our decision.
Absent any of that new information, then I take it you're asking the panel to reject the application made by the applicant.
Through the chair, that is correct. We have received some explanations of why the address is such, and or why her father indicated that she spends a lot of time at the main house. And with all due respect, that's fine. I also need to take a look at the facts that are presented to us as well. So the explanation may be such that the panel may want to hear that out, and that's included in the package as well. But given what was provided, we felt it was still reasonable for us to make that conclusion that this individual, that is not her primary residence.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions, Mr. Miyachi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the city's legal. And I'm wondering at this point if our panel members have any questions for the witnesses, our Assistant Director of Community Standards. Are there any questions from the panel? Nope. Seeing none.
Good, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. Seeing none, at this point, there is an opportunity for the applicant to the applicant's counsel if they have any questions for our witness this evening. Does the applicant have any questions?
Hi. So I do, it's not exactly a question, but I do want to talk about a couple of the things that the witness mentioned.
If I can
first
just,
thing that
if
I
I
want
can just interject for a moment, we will have an opportunity to get to that part of the proceedings, and you will have an opportunity to say that. I'm just wondering specifically at this moment if you have any questions for our City of Vancouver witness.
So on page 55, the witness said it was unit. It was a different unit, but it's unit 3516. So can the witness confirm that they made an error there, and that page 55 is actually unit 3516, not the unit that they said?
Through the chair, I think I did indicate that page 55 may be 3516 as well, is what I indicated.
So not, okay, so it's not as well. That is just the only one that's 3516. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, that's your
The other one is not.
that's your clarification questions at this point?
Yes, that is.
Okay, thank you. We are moving now, and thank you to the witness, appreciate that. We are moving now on to opening remarks from the applicant and from your counsel, so you do have the opportunity to provide your remarks to the panel at this time if you'd like to go ahead.
Oh, okay. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is that the purpose of the investigation was not made clear to me. It was not made clear that it would be done to determine whether or not it is a principal residence. Therefore, that's why the apartment looked really nice and really clean, because it was prepared as if it would be for a short-term rental. So you could see how nice it is. And on top of that, in 2018, when I had received my license and then it automatically, or it reminded for a renewal in 2019, and then I canceled it in 2020, I sent an email regarding this. I'm not sure which page it's on this document, but I did see it. I did make a mistake, and I forgot to reinstate my license, simply because, well, in 2018, it did it automatically, like there was a reminder. And so in 2021, there wasn't a reminder, and it slipped my mind. So that's why I said I was guilty there. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because I did want to have the short-term rental license reinstated properly as quickly as possible. And my expectation was that it would be done quicker. It would be done quicker than it's been taking time to happen. And the inspector actually arrived, they made a mistake and they arrived on a date earlier than they had scheduled, which I was not at the premises and no one was available to show them on that day. And that delayed it even a month later. So with that being said, with my hopes that the license would be reinstated quickly, that's why the place looked so quote unquote sanitized and nice, because I wanted it to be quickly done, and I assumed the license would be reinstated and then I could continue my Airbnb stuff. That's the first thing. And then the second thing I want to talk about is the witness mentioned that the inspector didn't look at the rest of the home, but the inspector did look at the rest of the home. So I'm not sure why that wasn't mentioned, but the inspector did go to the rest of the house, upstairs, and all that other stuff. The third thing that I wanted to talk about, I think on page 53, the witness mentioned that we, where is it? Yeah, that in September 2021, I had removed the listing, and then the witness said that there were bookings after that, but those bookings were canceled. So I don't understand why they said that those bookings were that they went through, but they were canceled just like they had asked, just like the city had asked, and I canceled everything, just like they had asked. So yeah, that's the third thing I wanted to bring up. Let me see here. Okay, yeah, and I did mention that page 55 is the 3516, and I think that it was on page 50. Where is it? On 50, that the witness said that this looks like 3516. It is not unit 3516. Just want to clarify that. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is, this unit, home 3518, like it's one home. It's like the same property, and 3516 is just a dwelling in there, and it's all connected. And I'm very close with my family, and I realize that everyone's doing their job really well, and looking at like the number 3518 versus 3516 on the license, and saying factually this is not the same address, but it is the same property, it is the same home, it just has a different number on there. And I would like, if possible, I would like to get the license but keep my 3518. And the reason I would like to keep the number 3518 is because I've had some delivery mishandling to 3516 when I've had short-term rentals before. So I don't want to risk missing any correspondence from government or the CRA or any important government documents. And so that is my reasoning for why my driver's license says 3518, and why I didn't even think that would be such a big issue, because it's the same property. And I just want to be careful and make sure that I get all of the stuff. I trust my family. If it comes to 3518, it always gets passed down to me. But if it gets passed to 3516, and let's say I have a short-term rental active, and I have a guest staying, it might be possible that that package or the letter doesn't get to me. Let me see. I think yeah, I think those are all the things that I wanted to mention.
Okay, thank you. Victoria, do you have, as the applicant, do you have any witnesses that you wish to call? this evening?
No, I didn't know I needed to have witnesses.
You're not required. You're not required to. It's an option. So I'm just asking if you do have any.
Nope, I don't.
Okay. Thank you for that. At this point, the panel members and the counselors have the opportunity to ask you questions. So I'll ask our panelists if you have any questions at this point for the applicant. Okay, I'm going to advance Councillor Swanson. Councillor Swanson, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to get a handle on this. The bylaw says that it has to be your own dwelling unit. So are you saying that you actually live in 3516, but whenever it's rented out, you take all of your stuff upstairs and stay up there while it's rented, and then move all of your stuff back?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Swanson. I'm going to ask a question myself. I'm wondering, I'm not clear in understanding if you are stating that you live at 3516, why you would have a problem receiving mail at your own address.
Because I know that I want to have a short-term rental. So when I have the opportunity, I'd like through Airbnb to have people stay there. And sometimes I have people that might stay there, for a long period of time, or maybe a little bit shorter. And I want to make sure that I get all of the correspondences, letters, deliveries, anything. I don't want any mishandling of my materials. That's why.
Okay, are you saying that you do rent this out for long periods and not just short periods of time?
No, I'm just saying, I have a short-term rental for this place. I'm saying sometimes someone might stay for like 3 days, sometimes they might stay for a week or something like that.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave it there. I'm not seeing any further questions at this point. So I'm wondering if there are any questions from City Council?
Yes, thank you. How long have your parents owned the property? Hello?
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I'm just, how long have they owned the property? I think maybe at least 5 years or so.
Have you lived there the entire time?
Yeah, I have. Sorry, I don't remember the exact date that we moved here, but yeah, it's been at least 5 years. Could have been in 2015, or sorry, if it was in 2015, it could have been 7 years.
And it may seem like an odd question, but none of us can see you, so it would be helpful just to know how old you are.
I'm 26.
26. And are you working?
I'm an artist and currently learning and trying to figure out how to start a business and all that other stuff.
Okay, do you pay rent to your family for the suite downstairs?
No, I don't pay rent.
You don't? They let you live there?
Yeah, they've given it to me. It's mine.
And do you have a bedroom upstairs in the main home where you stay when your place is occupied by short-term renters?
No, I don't. But, when I move my stuff, I do have a place to sleep. Like there's a place to stay.
And by
Sorry, I mean like when I have a short-term rental guest and when I have to take all my stuff, like I take that up with me is what I meant.
you take all your clothes?
Yep.
All your
all
food?
of my stuff. Yep, everything.
All your toiletries?
Yes, I take everything upstairs with me because I don't want my guests to have my or touch my stuff.
And where do you keep that upstairs?
We have, well, I mean, my parents share their closet. We have a computer room. Yeah, I just put it wherever.
And we've heard an indication that the upstairs, the 18 address, is sometimes used for short-term rental accommodations. Is there a situation where both of those units are rented at the same time?
No, and to be honest with you, I'm not too familiar with like the exact details of that one, but it's downstairs, and I think sometimes there can be like a student or something like that, but I'm not the right person to ask about that particular unit.
The upstairs unit? I can't. You don't know what happens
No,
with the
no.
rental of the upstairs unit?
Oh no, there isn't a unit upstairs. It's downstairs. There isn't one upstairs.
Where do your parents live?
They live upstairs.
And they never rent that particular unit?
No. There's 2 floors. It's a home, like a residential home, and we have 2 floors, and they live upstairs, and my unit is downstairs, and on their side, on the 3518 side, there's the other one downstairs.
So is that a separate self-contained unit like yours?
It's part of the house. It's not like self-contained. And like I said, I'm not like the best person to ask about that one.
Do you sometimes stay there when somebody's renting your place?
No, I don't stay there.
Okay. The question that was put to you earlier was with respect to your mail. What is the setup for the mail delivery at the house? How is mail delivered?
So sometimes the postman will put it into the mailbox, and there's a mailbox like at the front door, and then there's 2 more mailboxes like around the side of the home. And sometimes the delivery postman, they bring it to the door, like back to the back. So they have to walk around the front to the side of the building to access the other units from the back.
Those mailboxes, do they have a key on them?
No, they don't have a key.
You could possibly put a keyed mailbox at your unit and not furnish that key to your renters to ensure they didn't get to your mail.
Yeah, I could do that. The thing is that sometimes they might want to get something as well. So, I mean, to be honest with you, yeah, that didn't cross my mind that I could put a lock. But again, if I put a lock, and if they're staying for like a week or something and they're getting something mailed to them or delivered something to them, or if it's like a big box parcel, I think you can see that there would be an issue there.
Do you have anything that you can think of that you could have furnished to the council with the 316 or the 16 address on it?
Sorry, I don't get your question.
Well, part of the reason why the Deputy Chief License Inspector couldn't support the application is because there were multiple requests that you furnish further information that would allow him to reconsider the fact that he couldn't determine that you were the principal resident of the property 3516. So I take it you don't have any documents at all indicating that you reside down there.
Yeah, so I think that goes back to the, like, I think what you're hinting at is like, or what where this is going is the number on my driver's license, the number on the other documents that I submitted as well. So I do have the capability it's very easy to me. I could go to the driver's license place and change it to 3516. But then it would be a lot more effort. I'd have to change the number on everything that I have. And as I was saying before, if it's the same home and this is a small technicality, that if possible, I would like to not change the number so that I can keep having my correspondence from government and other important documents, so I can keep them coming to the main door. That's my main concern here, is I don't want my materials, any deliveries, to be accidentally given to a guest staying in my unit if I choose to have a short-term guest.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Great, thank you very much. We're now moving on to the point in the proceedings where we will hear closing submissions by the City of Vancouver's council at this point. So please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just going to remind the panel of the purpose of the short-term rental regulatory scheme. The purpose is that the city can ensure that those properties that are being offered for short-term rental accommodation in the city are still preserved as permanent housing stock for somebody. And to that end, the deputy chief license inspector or the chief license inspector, whoever is assessing the application, needs to see a body of information where they can be assured that the party who is asking to use the property for short-term rental accommodation purposes can satisfy them that this is still a unit that is staying in permanent housing stock for the city. What we've heard from the applicant tonight essentially is that it would be an inconvenience for her to supply the city with the information that it's seeking. She doesn't want to change her address. But that's what's expected. I've read into the record the information that's expected in terms of a principal residence and what you need to establish that. And nothing in support of a finding of principal residency has been furnished to the chief license inspector, notwithstanding multiple attempts at requesting it. So I'm going to submit that the panel is really left with the same information that the deputy chief license inspector had at the conclusion of his determination. There's nothing more that's been furnished. And there are other things that could be furnished. Perhaps there are photographs of the unit, for personal photographs that were taken at a party or something that would indicate that she lived there. Or perhaps an address change could be made. Perhaps she could satisfy the city by setting up a secure mail delivery at her premises that would make her feel better about changing her address. An affidavit.
Sorry, could you repeat that other option? I'm so sorry. Could you repeat the last thing you said that I could do?
Yes, we can repeat that to ensure that you're heard. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, perhaps there would be an indication of a more secure mail delivery system at your home that would make you feel better about changing your address for delivery for the delivery of the documents that you're afraid you're going to miss out on. This panel and the deputy license inspector has also seen affidavits from parties, friends, fathers, mothers, that sets out a sworn statement as to permanent occupancy or principal residency. Respectfully, we just don't have anything more before, so I'm going to ask the panel to defer to the decision of the deputy chief license inspector. There's simply not enough information so that we can be satisfied that this particular residence stays in permanent housing stock, which is the objective of the bylaw.
Thank you very much for the closing remarks. Victoria, that was the closing remarks from the City of Vancouver Council, and you have the opportunity, if you wish, to provide any closing remarks now yourself to the panel. Would you like to do that?
I just have a question. So some of the suggestions that I got was pictures of a party or putting in a better mail system. And I didn't catch the other thing. What was the thing about the affidavit?
I can clarify for you that the council stated that in similar situations where people have brought an appeal on an application, sometimes they have had statements, otherwise known as affidavits, from people that attest to the fact that the individual is living in the unit. And that was what the councillor was stating.
Okay, got it. And
Do you have, it is your opportunity now to ask to make closing comments. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, so how can I provide the affidavits? I, if possible, would like to make those statements and provide them.
The panel this evening, the panel has to go on the information that was provided for the purpose of bringing this panel together, and has to make their decision based on the information that you provided this evening. So I'll ask you again, this is your opportunity, if you wish, to provide any closing comments to the councillors that are participating in the panel. So would you like to do that or not at this time?
Okay. Just my closing statements would be to please consider my situation, everything that I explained about the mailing system. Please consider that I'm close with my family, that we live in the same home, and that 3516 is my personal dwelling. Also, please consider that I'm an artist and I am trying to resolve this as quickly as possible so that if I choose and want to bring in new short-term guests, I can do so. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. That's clear. And now that concludes the comments from remarks from council and the applicant. Is there any discussion at this point from the panel members? Councillor Boyle, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Chair Kirby-Yung. Can I just clarify, because I want to make sure it's clear in my head what the process would be for the panel if the decision is to uphold the decision of the Deputy Chief License Inspector. Is there a recommendation we have to move, or are we simply not acting in upholding that?
There is the panel do need to make a recommendation to uphold or not uphold the decision at the panel's discretion of the license inspector tonight. So there does need to be a motion brought forward from one of the panel members.
Okay, I was having trouble finding that language, so the appropriate language to do so, but we'll keep looking. I have one other point of information, if you'll allow it, Chair, through you to City Legal, which is, when is the next point at which the resident could collect the necessary documents to be able to have this reconsidered or reapply for a short-term license?
I'll direct that question. Thank you, Councillor Ball, to Robert LeBlanc.
And I may just redirect that to Mr. Miyachi. My sense is that this is an application for a 2022 business license. I don't know internally what the policy is in terms of reconsideration by the same applicant for the same property based on new information, and whether that can be done for a 2023 business license.
Thank you. Through the chair, I believe this is a non-support that dates back to the 2021 license application. Technically, this individual could apply for the 2022 license, subject to reviews once again, though.
Okay, thank you.
And
would you like to follow up on that, Councillor Boyle?
Yes, thanks. Just to clarify, there's no kind of time requirement, but that a new 2022 license could be applied for with adequate and appropriate documentation, a month from now or something like that.
Through the chair, any times, durations, that's all up to the panel to decide if they want to delay or have the term, I believe, Mr. LeBlanc. So, yeah, if there's no conditions placed on the decision of the panel, then technically this individual could apply for this year's license right away. But once again, it would be subject to our reviews again and similar kind of considerations for compliance.
Okay, I appreciate that information, and I'll go off the list for now. I see Councillor Swanson is on.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Boyle. I'm going to advance, and councillors do have language for possible motions on your email if you want to check that, and I will go ahead and advance Councillor Swanson. Councillor Swanson, go ahead, please.
Oh, I didn't have the language. I was winging it. With something like, just a sec.
You should have that, excuse me, you should have that on your email, Councillor Swanson. It might just be taking a moment to come into your inbox.
Okay, just let me see if I can find it here.
Before we move to a motion, I just want to confirm just if there's any other discussion or questions prior to moving a motion from panel members. Nope. Okay, then go ahead, Councillor Swanson.
Well, so the proposed motion is talking about the 2022 license. And so but from the discussion, we were talking about the 2021 license. So I would move that the business license hearing panel refuse to issue a 2021 business license to Victoria Raskin for a short-term rental accommodation at 3516 East Pender on the basis that appropriate reasons to be determined in the course of the hearing.
Yes, that's your opportunity if you wish to add any language or conditions,
Oh.
Councillor Swanson, or you could not and you could simply move the language without.
Can we just leave that out?
You can, yeah, you do have that discretion.
Let's do that. Now, do I have to email that to you or to somebody?
No, the clerk has that, and so maybe we'll just ask if we can bring that up. Oh, sorry, Councillor Swanson, I am being asked if you could just forward that to council meeting amendments to the usual email, and then the clerk will bring that up on screen so that people can see it.
Who do I send it to?
Send it to the council meeting amendments email, the one that is normally used during council meetings.
Oh, okay. But I'm changing this to 2021 so she can apply for it for this year if she wants to and meets the condition.
Well, perhaps I can pause there and ask a point of clarification as chair to our staff member, to the license inspector, just to confirm that if you can just clarify that if the panel takes the decision tonight to refuse to issue the 2022 license at this time, the applicant can still come back and make a subsequent application. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think I made a bit of an error there when I was explaining. So as the statement in the letter says, I will not support the issuance of your 2022 license application associated to the 2021. So it is the 2022 issuance, and until you can provide proof that you comply. So I read this, and when I suspended this license, it's intended for 2022. And so I apologize for the not now, Mr. LeBlanc, unless I'm interpreting this incorrectly. She can apply if she wants to, but we won't, according to this, I'm not going to support her 2022 license that's associated to the 2021, which is this address. If she moves to a different location and wants to apply, then that's considered a new application, and then I would consider that, or we would consider that. But as it is associated to this address, which is the 21 license, that is the decision that I rendered is that the 2022 license is not supported.
For the balance, just to be crystal clear for everybody, for the balance of the calendar year of 2022?
That is correct.
Okay.
So unless she moves to a different address altogether.
So if that decision is upheld by the panel, unless the panel chooses to add, just for clarity for everybody and procedurally, and I'll look to our council just to affirm, unless the panel chooses to add conditions such as until such time as the applicant may reapply or furnish appropriate documentation, would that be correct? Perhaps I can direct that question to our council.
I think we're dealing within fairly tight parameters, actually. I'm not sure that there is an option to add conditions. I think that you're being asked to assess the application because the determination could not be made by the Deputy Chief License Inspector. So based on the evidence that you have before you today, whatever license it was applied for, I believe it was the 2021, then I think this panel needs to make a determination in terms of whether or not to grant that license or to reject the application. If it's denied and the application is rejected, then I think it's still open to the applicant to apply for a 2022 license. But obviously, as has been articulated by Mr. Miyagi, he would not support that unless more information is provided. But it would certainly be open to the applicant to provide more information to persuade him otherwise. If he's still not persuaded, then she'd need to appeal that decision as well.
Okay, Councillor Swanson, does that help to clarify?
Yeah, I sent a second one, making it 2022.
Okay.
Second motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a seconder for the motion?
Just to clarify, the motion on the floor contains the date 2022.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the motion reads, and I'll ask the clerks to bring it up on the screen. It does read Councillor 2022, or it does read 2022, Councillor Boyle.
Thanks. I will second that.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Boyle. And I'll just read that into the record so everybody's clear. The motion reads, that's currently on the floor, that the business license hearing panel refused to issue a 2022 business license to Victoria Raskin, the applicant, for a short-term rental accommodation at 3516 East Pender Street, Vancouver, BC, the premises. So at this point, we have the opportunity for discussion on the motion, and I do see Councillor Swanson, are you okay at this point? Can I advance Councillor Boyle?
Yep, I'm okay. I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm done.
Thank you. Councillor Boyle, did you have comments?
Yes, just to say I appreciate the reminder that the short-term license bylaws exist for the important reason of ensuring and protecting that we're not losing long-term rental stock for residents, and also am sympathetic to the fact that these can be complicated bylaws, and we've been through a pandemic and whatnot. So I just wanted to say that I appreciated especially the City Council laying out some of the options for remedy, and being clear that because there are conditions on the language, were that proof provided with a new application, that would be possible. I think that create some clarity moving forward about what could be done on this. But for now, with no additional information given about the lower suite being a primary address, it doesn't feel to me like there's really a way for council to go against those bylaws. But like I said, I appreciate that there's some clarity about what the resident could do moving forward to remedy the situation.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Boyle. And Councillor Swanson, I have you on the queue again. Did you have remarks to make?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take the opportunity to make remarks. I would also support the motion that's on the floor to uphold the decision of the inspector and the staff. with respect to the fact that the panel has to consider the information in front of us, and there is no additional information for the purpose of this hearing that was provided by the applicant that indicated meaningfully or provided comfort or assurance, I think, to the panel that this home is being used as a primary residence, or overcame some of the challenges such as not receiving mail at the address or otherwise. But I would also note, similar to Councillor Boyle, that that does not preclude, if that is in fact the case, and it is meaningfully used as a home, which is the intention, to provide homes primarily for people in Vancouver, that doesn't preclude the applicant from potentially applying in future if they can provide that level of detail sufficiently that it would be required. So for that reason, I'm prepared to support it. At this point, not seeing anybody else, I think we have a motion on the floor. It's been moved by Councillor Swanson, seconded by Councillor Boyle, and we will move to a vote. Clerk, can you mark me in favor, please? Okay, that motion carries with none in opposition, which means that the determination by the license inspector has been upheld, and a license will not be issued at this time. And that concludes our proceedings for this evening. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Swanson, seconded.
Seconded.
Seconded, Councillor Boyle. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed. Thank you, everybody, for your participation this evening, and this business license panel is now adjourned.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, panel.
Bye.